Jesus, that
And
should
we're
put me
up.
down immediately.
What's up, folks? We're here with a pretty close to release on date review. It's a little bit different from us. We used to
Advanced
do
UAV
that,
is
but
online. Oh
Did you
shit.
have a stroke just now?
what
You
do you
said
mean?
we're pretty release on date. I
Yeah,
was like,
release
that's
on
not
date.
the Michael. No, that's that. Is that proper English?
Better than English, as you're gonna say.
Grenade!
Just because English is
Grenade!
my second language doesn't mean I can't
Grenade!
do better than that.
I'm
But
just
yeah, we are
saying.
here.
We're here talking
The
about the
weekend.
Marvels.
Yes, the weekend. Oh wait, it worked. Okay.
We're still learning how to use Discord, people.
Don't say we. I am.
I mean, I am too.
Oh, okay. I thought you were a little
Jesus,
ahead
got
of
all the
me
way
in
the
the
fuck
class.
over
So,
here.
No, not so much.
yeah, the Marvels. It came out. It has come out a week after the Variety article came out. It's the same week Loki season 2 wrapped up. Um, it is the only Marvel movie uh, left on the docket,
Wait, what do you mean?
and there's not another Marvel movie coming out for the rest of the year.
Okay, that you didn't. That's not what you said.
It's the only Marvel movie on the docket for 2023. Sorry.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
See, you'll get this English right.
I hate you. Uh, so yeah. What did you think?
I really liked it. I was when that first trailer came out for this, I was like, okay, this looks good. I was wondering if it was gonna live up to what I wanted, and I didn't know what I wanted. I thought Captain
Okay.
Marvel, the first Captain Marvel was okay, but I thought the character of Carol Danvers was, I guess by design, kind of very stoic because she was trying to figure out who she was. She kind of had amnesia. She was getting her memories back, and the character was just very stoic. Um, the actress Brie Larson can do all kinds of stuff. I think she's great. Really liked her in, what was that, 21 Jump Street? Yeah. Um, 21 Jump Street. I mean, she's able to do range. She can do serious, she can do funny, but she really didn't get to do a lot of that in the first Captain Marvel because again, that character seemed very stoic. She kind of broke out of that a little bit more in Avengers Endgame, which was nice, and I was hoping to see a continuation of that. And I feel like she's still not all the way where I want her yet, but I enjoyed her having the ability to not be as stoic and kind of be a little more, I guess, loosey goosey, go with the flow.
Um, okay, I feel you.
Mm-hmm. And you, sir?
Um, so I'm trying to gather my thoughts because it is still fresh in my mind after watching it. This is 24 hours. What's the time? So 24 hours has passed. I just finished watching the movie. I have been higher on phase. Is this five? We in phase five yet?
We are in phase five now. I think Quantum Mania started phase five, I believe.
Yes. So I've been higher on phase five than a lot of people. I was looking forward to this because I thought this was a cool
Phase five or phase four?
both.
Okay.
I've been higher on phase four and five.
Everything
Out of
post
the two of
Endgame.
us, yes.
Yes.
I want to have a shirt made that says "In Feige we trust," because I feel like this movie captures what that that dynamic that the MCU is known for, trying to handle complex situations and balancing different disparate characters and relationships and doing a pretty good job. Now I will say that I have a lot of problems with the movies plot wise as far as like things that this movie did off screen,
Mm-hmm.
but the goal of the movie, the relationship between these three women, I thought was really well done. I bravo to Iman, Bree, and Tiana. Also, shout out to Tiana Paris, South Carolina. Woo woo. Um, so the Dirty South is in the house. I really like this movie. Out of all the Marvel projects that came out this year, I'm still trying to finish Loki, and I'm trying not to rush through it. I would say this is in my top three. It's it right now without seeing Loki, finishing Loki. It is Across the Spider Verse, Guardians, and Marvels. Those are my three things for the MC for the
Wait, for
Marvel
the MCU or for Marvel stuff?
Marvel stuff. And I include Across the Spider Verse a little bit in the MCU only because Oscar Isaac's character, Spider Man 2099, Miguel O'Hara, mentioned Doctor Strange in Across the Spider Verse.
Yeah, but
Remember when he was
they
like,
can't
"Don't
even
get."
agree on which dimension it is.
I agree, but however, comma, we do, based on previous films, we know that there's a multiverse, and they have referenced our 616 universe in that. So I, it's not canon as far as being, but for me, it is one of the best Marvel things that has come out this year.
Sure.
So I say that in saying I really enjoyed this film. I think a lot. We'll get into this in another video, but I do question the timing of the Variety article, the cover story from Variety that says Crisis at Marvel. Um, Jonathan Majors backup plans. The second thing is Marvel's reshoots. And I just find the timing of that article very suspicious, considering the week it came out was in the midst of some of Marvel's biggest announcements or releases. The Echo trailer came out. A lot of people really liked that. Loki season two finale and Marvel's dropped all within a very small window of this article releasing. And I thought that was very weird considering it almost seemed to poo poo on this movie a little bit and kind of set up, kind of like brace people for, hey man, this movie may not be that good. And then it came out and you're like, huh? And maybe the reshoots really cleaned up a lot of things but I really like this movie. Now, don't get me wrong. I do think that there's a lot of things that this movie, heavy lifting this movie did not accomplish plot wise that I thought was, but all in all, I really enjoyed it. I thought Brie Larson did a really good job. I will push back on one thing that you said about her being stoic. I think part of the reason why she was stoic is because, and we'll get into it a little bit more when we get into spoilers, I think the character demanded she be a little stoic, a little standoffish because she grew up thinking, or her character believed she was Kree the entire time. And so the Kree and the way they handled themselves was this kind of air of superiority. I'm better than you, this standoffish, not really embracing your feelings kind of thing. And I think that was a deliberate choice in that matter. But the I think the flip side of that is uh, the the young lady who played Kamala Khan, Iman, and I don't want to butcher her name, Vellani. Her and Tiana Paris did a very good job of balancing out the character that's Carol Danvers. And I felt like this Carol Danvers was a little closer to what we see in the comics. And I think they all did a very good job of making up for some of the misses the movie had plot wise. And you, if you didn't think to, like, if you didn't look at the man behind the curtain, you would forget about some of the things that happened in the movie because they did such a good job.
Yeah, I think for me,
That
the negatives are there are definitely parts where they kind of gloss over stuff, kind of like oh, it's solved. And it seems kind of like some issues that may have been long standing seem like they kind of happened, they kind of resolved kind of quickly. At least I and maybe that's a testament to what the actors were doing, the actresses were doing, because I liked them so much. I wanted to see more of them, kind of get into some of
Hmm.
that deeper material. But Nia DaCosta, I don't know how you pronounce her name, the director. I mean,
I'm gonna
she
say
said
DaCosta.
she, I'm paraphrasing, but she's like, "There's no need to give us a 2 hour movie if I can get it in an hour 45." And I feel like for the most part, she did. So she cut
I
fluff
think
where she needed to. She thought.
I think one of the things that I enjoyed about this movie is there was no lag. It we knew this was going to be one of the shorter MCU films, and from the very beginning, this film moved. Whereas some of the other movies that Marvel has done, you felt the time. You felt like, okay, this movie's kind of long. Let's wrap this up. And I felt like there was no wasted. Every beat of the movie, every scene seemed to work. Um, Again, I don't want to belabor the point. I think there were some things that this movie did not do a good job of, but I think in all, for from beginning to end, this movie moved. You enj- I enjoyed the ride, um, and I think that's a testament to the editing and the actresses carrying this movie as far as like every time they interacted with one of the side characters or their co-stars, it was believable, and that's one of the things that the MCU has a I won't say a hard time with, but sometimes some of the actors can be a little stilted, and that relationships you you're not buying. Like when I watched Quantum Mania, the best two people in that movie was Michelle Pfeiffer and Jonathan Majors. Hands down, nobody else brought it as well as they did. And it's weird to say that considering the movie is called Ant-Man and Wasp.
Hmm.
And the chemistry between everybody else was kind of non-existent to a certain extent where it wasn't really believable, but those two characters when they interacted with other characters was believable. So in this movie, whether it was Kamala interacting with her parents or her family, whether it was Brie Larson and Tiana Paris interacting with each other, the relationships, it was very believable, and you could see this actually happening. So I really enjoyed that. Um, what would you rate this one?
Um, I give it a 4 out of 5 Flurkins.
Okay,
Yeah.
I give it a 4.5 out of 5 quantum bands.
Okay.
It's
Cool.
not a five, but it is a solid 4 out of 5 or 4.5. Um, so basically, four quantum bands and then a half quantum band.
I mean, people know what 4.5 means, but okay.
Well, you know what? Let me back up. Two pairs of quantum bands and just one bangle.
Okay. Sure.
Yeah, that's how I want to measure it.
Okay.
So yeah, so at this point in the video, we want to tell you like, comment, and subscribe. We try to put videos up regularly based on our schedule. Um, we do reviews, reactions. We're going to try to move into some other things once we get some money and once we get some more likes and subscribers. Uh,
There we
but
go.
we can't do that without you,
That's
um,
true.
the audience, the community. Uh, this is the Dirty South. We are nerdy by nature. Let's do it.
Yeah,
Hold
man.
on, I got to do
We
the
didn't do
spoiler.
any of that at the beginning.
Spoiler hands.
That's
Spoiler
how
hands.
good we are at this. Yeah, spoiler hands indeed. Um,
Hey man, they knew what they signed up for when they watched this.
Marvel needs to do a better job of, well, 14 minutes in, just so I know where I can get the spoiler tag up. Needs to do a better job of outfitting black women in superhero costumes,
Explain.
particularly thick black women in superhero costumes.
Explain.
Tiana Paris has a fat ass.
Oh,
Lashana Lynch has a fat ass.
can we? Well, you said it, not me. Okay.
I'll stand by that. I don't think that's a hot topic, a hot take. They're beautiful women.
I,
They
I,
have beautiful bodies. I
I
said it like that just to grab attention, but the overall thing I'm getting at is their bodies are bigger than like a Brie Larson or a Mon Vellani are, and the costumes don't fit them right at certain points, um, because they have bigger butts, and sometimes the costume wouldn't bend or stretch around them like they would the other characters, so the costume didn't look right. It's kind of a similar thing to how Anthony Mackie's Captain America costume didn't fit right, and it wasn't a black or white thing on that. It was just like, I don't know if you remember the cowl or whatever over him. Sometimes when he would wear it, it wouldn't. When he would move his neck, it kind of there was a gap in it and kind of looked weird, which is it's not something you have to account for if you're in a comic book, but it kind of looks weird in live action. And I kind of saw that with Lashana Lynch and Tiana Paris's costume. Like sometimes it just didn't fit right in certain parts. It didn't take me out of it.
well,
I just thought like that's interesting.
I mean, I let me push back a little bit, because I don't think that's a black issue. I think that is a costume design issue that the MCU has had the entire time. Because I will say that I've noticed this, but I've noticed it way back when, in the first Avengers. If you go back and look at Captain America's costume in Avengers versus the first Avenger, two different costumes. I understand probably different people designed those costumes, but if you looked at the fit from Civil War, First Avenger, then look at the Avengers costume that Captain America had was bad. I just, you know what? I don't want to say bad. It was ill fitting, and I say that to say there have been other times where the costume has not fit appropriately, regardless of race or male or female. I feel like if you go back and look at Scarlett Johansson's costumes, where she's been Black Widow, I feel like they've done a really good job with that one. Whereas if you go back and look at um, Olsen, Scarlet Witch, what's her first name? Uh,
Elizabeth.
Elizabeth Olsen's costume was a little weird in different places. Um, where it's like in certain parts it was really good and in certain parts it wasn't. Um, I feel like I don't know if that's a black woman issue or just an MCU where it's like they're making tons of costumes and
I don't know if it's an
some
MCU
of
issue.
them,
I think it might be a superhero issue overall. Um,
yeah.
I think I think the body shape of a lot of the black women that are in superhero stuff, not just MCU, but what was her name? Javisha Leslie. I don't know if that's how you pronounce her name, but the woman who took over the Batwoman role in CW,
Mm,
and then Nafissa Williams from Black Lightning. All four of
mhm.
these four black women, thicker black women, the costumes. I think like DC kind of got it right in terms of the material they use. They seem to fit them better than whatever the material was for um, Tiana Paris and Lashana Lynch.
Well, I will say in this movie, I thought Miss Marvel's costume was really good in a lot of parts.
I didn't like
I
her
I
final
noticed.
costume, like the color scheme of it. Like I thought it fit her well. I just didn't like the color scheme of it for some reason.
I so I didn't like. I understood some of the costume choices, and I will get to, since we're doing spoiler. Um, I'll get to another, which lends to your argument, but it also I think lends to my argument more in the sense of I just think they have a hard time with costumes because they're trying to recreate some of these costumes that come directly from the
Oh sure,
comics, and it's like that's hard to do,
you don't
and
have to worry
that
about
was
that stuff
kind of
when you
why.
when you have a two dimensional painting or
Yeah, and so,
portrait or whatever.
and so like so perfect example. When Bryan Singer did the X-Men, he did not think any of those costumes would come on would look good on camera. He went straight Matrix, all black with the X-Men. When I mean, I could go on and on about how much I do not like Fox's X-Men, but that was one of the biggest things that I always had a problem with. But then I think about it and I'm like, well, you had the wrong people designing them. And I think that is something we have where whether it's women, black women's hair, or whether it's just women's hair in general and costumes. DC, major problem with wigs. Do we need to go into Amber Heard's horrible wig from Aquaman, Michelle Williams's horrible wig from Venom, or you like these hairstyles, some of these wigs? I feel like you have $1 million movie, multi-million dollar movie. Some of those things should have gotten worked out. Um, I'm willing to overlook a little bit of that, considering I felt like the VX was a little better in this,
Oh,
but I feel like it was,
again, that's a nitpick. That's not the reason why I
yeah.
brought it down to 4. I just think that's something they can work on. But yeah, that's not that didn't take me out of
Um,
the movie. I'm just like, I don't like the way that fits her.
the things that took me out of the movie that I thought about that I was like weird the whole time I was watching this film, and again I liked it. The whole time I'm watching it, I'm thinking the first Captain Marvel made the Skrulls and finding them a home, and the relationship between her and Nick Fury, and the Rambos. I was wondering where the Skrulls were the entire time. Like, yes, they were in the beginning, and then I realized after I watched the film, this film was supposed to come out before Secret Invasion.
Oh yeah, definitely. I
And
remember when
so,
we talked about it in the trailer. We're like, where does this fit in terms of Nick Fury? He seems
uh-huh.
to be a different person. Like, oh yeah, technically, or if things had been right, Secret Invasion wouldn't have happened yet.
And so that kind of took me out a little bit because I just watched Secret Invasion not too long ago. My son, for some reason, whenever the marquee for Secret Invasion it slides, that thing at the top, he has to watch it. So I've watched Secret Invasion a few times, different episodes over and over again, which reinforces my not dislike for the series, but like
Disappointment.
this was one of yes. And so as I'm watching this and I'm realizing how good this movie is, I'm realizing how bad Secret Invasion was for me.
Sure.
And so there was a lot of things in the film. So like when did Valkyrie and and Carol Danvers become friends to the point where she could call her? Where
I
did
think.
that relate? And so it's one of those things where there are certain relationships and things that have happened off screen
Yeah.
and that are a really big point to this movie where you're like, huh? Wait, what? And for me as a Marvel fan, that's bad when I have watched everything, read the comics, and I'm still like, wait a minute. Did this happen and I forgot it? And so like that's a real big problem for me in your film and your storytelling, and we've talked about this before. It's almost as if at one moment they want you to watch everything to get what's going on.
Hmm.
But even if you watched everything, the storytelling still suffers because it's almost as if they're like, oh wait, what's the motivation for this? We didn't put this in here. Oh, that happened off screen. And it's like, wait, that's a really big thing. So like the fact that the Kree were calling her Annihilator the entire time, and you realize, oh, she destroyed the Supreme Intelligence. And for comic fans, that's a big deal. That's a that's a really effing big deal. And then you're watching and you're like, wait a minute, I've watched Captain Marvel. Did she didn't do that.
Hmm.
And then you realize it's in the memories and then you and it's like a flashback scene and you're like, okay, you could have done that better.
Hmm.
Oh, or Darben's hatred for Captain Marvel, and then you realize, oh, she's choosing planets that matter to Carol Danvers, Captain Marvel, those motivations fell flat.
It's almost like maybe that could have been the cold open of the movie. You seen her, like a flashback of her maybe destroying the Supreme Intelligence and seeing all that. Maybe show that first, and then you start the movie. I don't know.
And I'm 100% on board for that. And I think those things made that's one of the things that kind of took me out of the movie, where I'm like, I'm trying to rack my brain out of all the MCU stuff that I've watched and all the comics that I've read. Like, did this happen and I just forgot? Or was I not paying attention? And then those things I felt was a letdown. But then it was almost kind of like you would forget because the movie moved so fast. And then the three women would be on screen and they'd be interacting or something would happen and you would forget. But
Mm-hmm.
then you would remember stuff because something else like that would happen. So like the whole finding the Kree planet.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, oh, Secret Invasion's already come out. This is what they were talking about. We and so I feel like that whole thing took me out because the whole time I'm thinking, how do these two things link up? And where's the ramifications? Because I forgot that Secret Invasion was supposed to come out after this. So I'm looking for the effects of Secret Invasion in this movie.
Right.
And I forgot. And
Um,
so it's little things like that that bothered me.
what happened to the people of Aladna?
Um,
They got their water
Climate change,
taken,
buddy.
but like
Climate change, buddy.
we didn't go back to them at all. We saw their water gone,
Hey,
and we're
buddy.
like, hey, we got to keep the story moving. I was like, hey, wait a minute, these people, we not
Sir,
gonna.
sir,
Okay.
just like on this planet, there's quite sure there are people who are like, that didn't happen. Our water disappears every so often and life cycles happens. Fake news.
I just felt like
The
that was
oceans
a
will be
big thing
fine.
that happened, that that planet got mollywopped, and we just kept it pushing. And I get it, you got to keep the flow moving, but maybe they could have done a line or something like, oh, they're refugees now, or we saved them or whatever. I was like, she's the princess of the planet, and she left. Side note: the beginning of that musical, loved it, loved
Oh,
it.
I know you did. Oh
Oh
yeah.
God, I was like, yep, I'm here for that. When the Flurkins were eating people and they were singing "Memory" from Cats, I was like, yep, loved it. I was
I will
like,
say
this
this.
is
I did not
really musical theater nerds might really
I
like
had
parts of
no
this.
idea that was a music from Cats. However, I will say the Flurkin scene, because I was like, when I saw the Flurkins in the trailer, I was like, I'm not a cat person. I have no problems with cats. I'm just not a cat person. And I was just like the Flurkin thing with Nick Fury. I thought it was a little weird. And I was like, how are they going to pull this off? And I'm not going to lie, I was wrong. Throw Flurkins in every goddamn MCU movie.
This movie was
I
very
thought that
funny.
scene was freaking hilarious.
Hmm.
Getting on the intercom talking about please let the Flurkins eat you.
Yeah. So
Oh,
you we
that was
mentioned this.
that.
You said you had like 5 people in your showing or whatever. No, no, you didn't. That was a coworker of mine said they had 5 people in the showing. How many people were in your showing? Do you remember? It wasn't
I
packed
went
though.
to a late. No, it wasn't packed. No.
I had maybe six, maybe I'll say I'll say 7 people total,
Mhm.
in a theater in Rock Hill. I was really the only one laughing, and I'm wondering if this movie's gonna carry with other people. Cause I love the movie. I thought it was very funny, but I could see some people being put off maybe, because it's not.
Oh, really?
Maybe I could see that.
My theater wasn't packed. It was probably maybe 10 to 15 people in it. I went to a late night showing on a Thursday night. Kids and the wife went to bed. I was looking. I was like, the Panthers are going to lose this game.
Yes, they are.
I was like, I was like, why do I need to watch? I was like, why do I need to watch the worst two teams in the NFC?
Yeah, that was rough.
Wait, let's see if he goes back to sleep. But I was like, why do I need to see the worst two teams in the NFC? And then what really bothered me, side note, what really bothered me about the Bears Panthers game was we traded the first round, we traded for the first round pick to get from the Bears, and then they beat us. So, which means our pick just became better for them. And we mortgaged our whole future for Bryce Young, which I have, he wasn't my choice.
Man, you better get on board
Just
for your
saying.
QB. You better ride or die for that 5'10" man.
And then I'm watching CJ Stroud just light up the league. And I'm just like, I hate it here. I'm upset. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to go watch Marvels. And you know what? That was a very good
That
choice
was a good
because
choice.
I didn't have to watch the Panthers. I say all that to say 10 to 15 people in my theater. Um, no, at least 15. And we were all cracking up. There were
That's good.
parts that people were cracking up before I even started cracking up. There
Okay.
was like, excuse me, they started laughing a little earlier than I did at some stuff. And then there was like, after a while, we were all just rolling.
Okay, good.
And so I really enjoyed the humor. I thought was really well placed. But I had two quick, I have a couple of problems with the film in the sense of you got to get Carol Danvers' powers right.
Hmm.
And I felt like if she is the strongest person in the MCU, we have heard that it's her, then Thor. And you can argue whether or not it's Thor and Hulk or Hulk and Thor. Either way, they have said that Carol Danvers is the strongest Avenger. Why is she having a hard time taking out Kree soldiers? Like power wise, like if you're that strong, punch them in the chest. Like
She was
I
punching him.
felt like, but they were getting back up, and I feel like that's one of those things where I'm like
Hmm.
that whole where they were flashing in and out, and then she was struggling with some of the Kree soldiers. I felt like, yeah, I wasn't buying that because I know how strong she is, and I was like, okay, I could see Miss Marvel struggling. I could see Spectrum or Monica Rambeau struggling, but I felt like there should have been some type of like explanation, and I need him to go back to sleep. Uh, but yeah,
I mean, we can wrap this up if we need to, but I was just gonna
now
say,
mm,
okay.
he's good.
Um, see,
You gotta so for those out there before you report me to social services. The thinking is you gotta let them self-soothe and go back to sleep. If they cry for more than 5 minutes continuously, then go check on them.
cool.
Um,
Um,
Let me say that that is very hard to do because I want to just immediately go get him. But continue.
I was able to buy the fact that I didn't take it as she was struggling. I took it as she was kind of playing with it, and the fact that again she was slightly depowered only because she didn't want to use her full power and switch out. So I that didn't take me out of it as much. I was able to buy it. It's like, oh well, she's fighting a little bit differently because she can't use her full strength.
Well, here, and I guess maybe they need to do a better job of explaining what the strength and power level is because my thing is it strength of just you just naturally being strong and you can hit people, or do you have to charge up and then when you hit people you're strong? So maybe that's not clear, and maybe I didn't understand that, but I thought that was a little weird. I did enjoy and I love the editing and the cinematography of when they played Intergalactic, and the three of them had to learn how to
Their
work
training
together.
montage, yeah,
That training, like
yeah, that was good.
I, as a child of the '80s, bring back training montages
Oh sure.
with music. Bring like I need all of that.
Hmm.
And for all the people who keep them in, shout out to Rick and Morty, the creators behind Rick and Morty and Archer. Uh, they have kept the training montage alive. Those two shows, and I only reason why I bring those up is because I currently watch them religiously. Um, so yeah, bring back the training montage. That whole thing when this movie comes out on digital and streaming, that whole thing is a clip to promote your movie. It was great. I loved every minute of it.
Oh yeah.
The the
Speaking of,
the the hopscotch, the throwing the ball,
yeah,
the catching popcorn, loved it all.
two things. Talking about promoting movies. Marvel used to be so good at not spoiling everything in their trailers. Like the
Hmm.
last two trailers or so, I didn't watch, and I'm glad I didn't because I went back and watched them after I saw the movie. It's like, oh, these are some big spoilers. Like I think the latest trailer has the
The
post
final
credits
trailer.
tease. Yeah, it has the post credit tease in it,
I
which is
heard
crazy. I was like,
that.
yo, that sucks. Granted, they don't show
I
Beast in it, but they show the X-Men lab or whatever.
so I heard that. I heard that about the final trailer for this, and there's another movie that had a final trailer that I saw or didn't see. The Creator.
Mm-hmm.
So the Creator had a final trailer that I didn't watch until after the movie, and then when I watched the final trailer, I was like, oh.
Mm-hmm.
You know me, I'm a big proponent of I'm don't spoil the movie. I stay off social media before a movie comes out, and when I had Twitter, I would mute certain words
Mm-hmm.
so things would not get spoiled for me. Um, I You brought it up, so we can talk about the elephant in the room, um, and we can get back to some other stuff. This gives you more argument. This brings back the argument that we had earlier about costumes. So this is binary.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the costume Monica Rambeau's mother had on, that costume was very ill-fitting.
Mm-hmm.
That costume was terrible. As when I think about it, and you know what? I don't want to say terrible because somebody worked on it. They probably thought it was a good job. I just thought
It did not compliment Lashana Lynch.
it didn't compliment anybody.
Yeah.
It just was an ill-fitting costume, and I like the idea of this whole multiverse, and I like the idea. I just am very cautious about using the Fox X-Men in the MCU.
So what
And
do
I
you
know
think this
everybody.
means? Do you? Sorry. What do you think this means about Kelsey Grammer being there?
Oh, you're definitely going to try to bring back all of the X-Men that you can get away with.
And see, I'm of the opposite opinion. I don't. I think it was just a wink and a nod. I don't think they're going to bring back the Fox X Men. I think. Sorry. When they finally do X Men, I don't think they're going to bring those people back. I think you'll see them in the Deadpool movie, but I don't think you'll see them past that
I
personally.
hope I hope they don't. I'm with you. I hope they don't. But here's my biggest concern, and we can get to this argument later on when we talk about the article and where the MCU is after we finish this review. I'm cautiously optimistic that they will basically wipe the slate clean with everything Fox X-Men and just keep Ryan Reynolds. I do not want to see Hugh Jackman again as Wolverine. I appreciate everything he's done. I was never that big as on him as being Wolverine as far as his movies. I thought he did a very good job as Wolverine, but I thought all of his movies that he was Wolverine because they were Fox movies were not very good. I thought Logan was the best, and that was the first time that I was like, "Oh, finally I get to see that person who that representation." I am scared with this post-credit scene that they're going to try to microwave the X-Men the way Warner Brothers tried to microwave Justice League and their universe. That
Explain.
is
I
my
don't understand
biggest
what you
fear.
mean when you say microwave. What does that mean?
And instead of laying the foundation, so like remember the MCU started with individual movies, then did team.
Mm-hmm.
Justice League, the Warner Brothers under the Snyderverse, basically just did a couple of movies and then did Justice League and
Sure.
tried to do the largest, the one of the biggest DC storylines of all time in your first movie. And you didn't lay the groundwork for why we care about these characters before you decided to kill off one of the like right now that might be a little different considering the MCU has such a huge lead and people have very short memories. Superman is one of the biggest characters of all time. And in your second movie you're going to kill him. So that's what I said, microwave their universe. The MCU has done a very under Kevin Feige has done a very good job of laying the groundwork of getting you to care about these characters before they off them. And I think and I hope when they introduce the X-Men in the MCU outside of Deadpool, they do a better job than the Fox movies did.
Okay.
And I hope they don't go because there is so much chatter about Phase 4 and Phase 5 not meeting expectations. And that's my only concern. I enjoyed Kelsey Grammer as Beast when I watched the Fox movies. I thought the Fox movies, certain people did a very, like Patrick Stewart as Professor X, hands down one of the best castings ever. Um, I thought Kelsey Grammer as Beast, awesome. Alan Cummings as Nightcrawler, amazing. Um, Everybody else, eh.
Okay.
So I like seeing him. I like seeing Binary, but I'm wary of this whole multiverse thing, considering all of the plot threads you've introduced in these movies and television shows. How do you plan to wrap this up? And that was my biggest problem with the end of the movie, the post-credit scene. Excuse me, and you opening the door to the multiverse in so many different movies. Because you so let's in the last phase, and with this phase, you have the quantum verse, you have Doctor Strange, you've introduced incursions with the multiverse of madness, you brought in Clea, then you also have the Eternals running around with Celestials and the awesome power that they bring to the table. Um, then we have the threat of Atlantis and Namor. Um, Wakanda is without, I don't want to say competent leadership, but you basically killed the royal family, and Shuri's now in charge with a possible throne, uh, a
Is
threat to
she
the
in
throne from
charge,
an M'Baku.
or did she like say, "Yo, M'Baku, you got this"?
That's the question.
See, I
And
took the
so
end of that movie to be like, "Oh, they tight, they good."
I took it as M'Baku's about to challenge to be Black Panther. Um,
Hmm.
but again, and then so then and keep in mind we're still not done. You have the scrolls after Secret Invasion, and now you have Monica Rambeau stuck in another dimension,
Hmm.
another universe, and we hadn't even gotten to what happened in Loki season 2.
Oh,
So
buddy, I finished that today. Whew. Good stuff.
so I say I say all of that to say throwing in the X-Men before you even get to, oh, sorry, I forgot, No Way Home, Sony's Spider-Man. So I say all of that to say that is hard. You have a lot going on,
Now you
a
started this
lot.
video saying, "And Kevin, we trust."
And Feige, with Marvels, I'm back on board as far as the way this movie was handled, as far as the pacing of the movie. I really enjoyed this movie. With that post-credit scene, I was like, oh, I don't know how this is going to go because you have so many plot threads going on,
You do.
so many things. And I think with this goes back to your point, and where I have to say, Michael called it when we were talking about phase 4. You didn't see the end or what was
The through line.
the through line, because when we had the first 3 phases we knew Infinity War, we knew Infinity Gauntlet, we knew Thanos was coming, we knew because the breadcrumbs that were left, and we knew no matter what, that was the threat. with these phases, you have introduced so many different things where Kevin Feige has and the MCU is scripted like a comic
Hmm.
continuity. Well, the difference is with comics, you can read X comic and just enjoy that comic. The MCU was designed to be ingested with everybody watching everything. And I think that is a hard task for the average viewer when there is so much with television and movies and with streaming services to watch. And I think the MCU has the problem of how do you pull it off and how do you tie it all together?
Hmm.
That and because that is a that is a big ask, and this is coming from someone who has enjoyed Phase 4 and Phase 5. Because and so and I'll toss it back to you. The problem that I have right now with what just happened with Monica being in another dimension and the X-Men showing up and whatever dimension that is the same problem that I had with Ahsoka.
Hmm.
Ahsoka was a continuation of Rebels, and if you watched Rebels and Clone Wars, you got it.
Hmm.
You understood Ahsoka a little better than if you just watched Ahsoka. The MCU is turning into that, where you have to watch everything. And so if you just went to Marvels and thought this was a cool movie, that post credit scene didn't mean anything to you. You were like, there's a blue fuzzball. Oh yeah, that's her mom. And that part was cool.
Hmm.
I thought that part was cool. And I thought maybe you chose a different character other than Beast. Or maybe you script that scene better. And it would have had a more emotional impact if you didn't have Beast.
Hmm. I loved it. I was like, this is great. I enjoyed it a lot. I am curious because in my mind, as much shit as I give Phase 4, which again I thought it was fine. I don't hate it like a lot of people do. I thought it was fine. I definitely don't like as much as 1, 2, 3, but I feel like they're doing all these plots. I don't know where they're gonna go, but I feel like the X Men are still a ways off. Like we probably won't see X Men until after Fantastic Four and after the two Avengers movies. It's like 2028 maybe or something like that. I think with only the one movie coming out next year, I think Feige and company are trying to rewrite the ship or figure out, hey, we had a lot of content to get through. It was a lot, and we did what we could, but maybe let's pare it down some and let's really focus on giving quality over quantity. So I'm down with it. But the other thing I wanted to bring up was how exactly do the quantum bands work? Because Darbin put on the quantum bands and she was gone. Kamala put on the bands and she was fine.
Now, here's the thing. We also know Kamala is a mutant, and her mutant powers. And see, this goes back to that whole thing that we talked about just now, watching Kamala's show, Miss Marvel.
Hmm.
Remember, I was about to say Orishi's, no, clandestine, and the auntie, her grandmother who gave her the bands, and then remember she's a mutant,
Hmm.
and so her mutant powers activated the band and interacted with the band in a way that Darbin couldn't. And it and I got it, but I also think they didn't do a good job of this. And it's one of those things where it's like it wasn't as tight. Remember in Guardians when Star Lord
Yeah.
was able to hold on to, and then they explained it in the next scene
Hmm.
when the Nova Corps was like, "Hey, we read there's something else," and they were like, "Now I'm Terran." He's like, "Your dad?" And he's like, "I don't know him."
Hmm.
That's one of those things where I think that's when Nick Fury should have been like, "Hey man, we checked. There's something interesting in your genome. Uh, you want to come back and
Yeah.
then also she only had one on. She didn't have both of them on. So where's the other one? Is
Oh,
Saber keeping
Carol
that
has
for
the other one.
safekeeping?
If you Carol had the other one
Where?
on her, she was wearing it,
So Carol was wearing one,
and
and
Kamala was wearing the other one.
Kamala has the other.
Yeah,
And so here's my
I'm not.
question:
I'm 90%
Why?
sure Carol had the other one. Why? Hey,
Why? Reason why I said is because once again, you already got your ass kicked by a lady with a hammer who got both of them, and it was three of y'all. Now it's only two. So I say that to say this is where these little scripting things where I'm like, okay, you got to tell the story a little better because yes, um, wanting more is the mark of a good movie, but not being able to answer questions after the movie is over and you still have questions and not like, oh, what does this mean? But you have like plot line questions. I thought that was a bad look where like and again we can go back to different parts like I really enjoyed Mala meeting Captain Marvel. I really enjoyed but here's another thing when I talk about like what does that mean? Carolyn, and I want to get her name in the movie. Um, Tiana Pierce's mom. What was
Maria.
her name in the movie? Maria Rambeau. So, are they lovers?
Could be.
And
Disney
and,
never
and
really
the only
touched
reason why I
on
bring
homosexual relationships. You got the one in
they
Eternals, and
don't
that's it.
they don't. But the thing that the reason why I bring it up is because there seemed to be a connection there,
Oh yeah.
and it wasn't fully explained about like why she didn't come back. Like I didn't buy that. Oh, I didn't want to come back because I started this civil war. Because we didn't even know there was a civil war going on. And so like the whole idea behind not coming back and her not I I kind of wanted Tiana Paris's Monica to be mad.
Yeah.
Not like and that wasn't because Captain Marvel wasn't just a captain for her. She wasn't just saying she was an auntie was is to me was kind of like code for, oh, you was my mom's girlfriend
Yeah.
and you helped raise me, so why you ain't come back?
Hmm.
And that whole they did a very clumsily job of that, and the whole idea of reliving that experience I thought was very well done. But I also felt like it was very clumsily of explaining what their relationships were. And I
Sure.
thought who did a better job of explaining it was Kamala's mom when she was like, they don't look like they're related. And then Kamala's mom was like, family is complicated.
Hmm.
And I want to give a shout out to the woman who played Kamala's mom. I want to get her name right. Zenobia Shroff, who played her mom, and Sagar, who played Amir, and her dad, uh, Mohan Kapoor, who played Yusuf Khan. They were mwah, perfect. I loved every time they were on screen. I love when old boy was like, "Yeah, I'm 300 years old," and his son looked at him and was like, "Oh, you're same age."
Hmm.
I just enjoyed every time, like when they were shooing the cats into the escape pods. I really wish like this is one of those times where I'm like, okay, Marvel, I'll take that. Give me a show about the cons,
Sure. I mean,
and
they
Kamala
were
just
a big
come.
selling point of Miss Marvel, right? Like that really helped sell season one to me. Was the whole family dynamic?
Mhm. So I really enjoyed that. Kamala really Aman Vellani was the breakout star for me. She really did a very good job. She was precocious, she was annoying, she was lovable, I felt for her. She Brie Larson once again did an amazing job. Tiana Paris, we saw her in Scarlet Witch. I really enjoyed her, but Imani was to me the linchpin that held this all together,
Sure.
and she was the one. Her that relationship between her and Tiana Paris when they were at the Aladna, and they were like, and she was like, "You're loving this, aren't you?" She's like, "How much fanfic are you getting out of this?" Like that whole thing was amazing when she was chastised and she felt when Captain Marvel was like, "We save who we can,"
Hmm.
and it that was a such a different feeling from Age of Ultron when Captain America's like, "We leave nobody behind." And Captain Marvel was like, "Shit is going bad. Get the fuck in this spaceship so we can get the hell out of here."
Hmm.
And I that like the veneer fell off. And so you watched this entire movie kind of like through her eyes. I felt like you you were the spectator watching her interact in this and being a part of this huge universe. I really enjoyed it. Bravo for the film for that relationship and these women interacting together. I thought that was perfect. We can quibble about the other parts of it, but those three carried the film. And Amani as Kamala, that is
Iman.
Kamala Khan. Huh?
Iman. You keep saying
Iman?
Lonnie.
Imani? Okay.
I think it's just
Iman.
Iman. Falani.
Iman.
I believe so.
Iman
Don't
Vellani.
you have the thing up somewhere?
Sir, I'm drinking. I'm
Great.
English is my second language. I don't know what you expect from me. We
No,
just
I'm
talked about this at
drinking.
the beginning of the
Okay.
film.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, Iman
I've been
Vellani.
drinking. Isn't that how Beyonce says? I've been drinking.
Yeah, you sound just like her. Yep. You and Maya Rudolph
I
sound just
know.
like Beyonce.
So yeah, I would love another. Like I don't know if I will. You hear the kid. I would see this again in the theater. I really would. I really hope word of mouth.
I
I
hope it has strong word
you
around that
talk
people go see it.
now. Here's a funny thing. You talk about that. So this film has interesting. You should say that Rotten Tomatoes. What would you say the Rotten Tomatoes is for Marvels? Like the tomato score is?
70.
Okay. What would you think the audience score is?
76.
So the tomato meter is a 62
Hmm.
with 262 reviews,
That sucks.
but the audience score is an 85%.
Well, that's good.
And so the reason why I bring that up is because I think word of mouth is going to push this movie forward. We've
Hopefully.
talked about the fact that the narrative behind some of these movies in phase 4 and 5 has been negative. Some of it because some of the stuff hadn't been good, but I think also some of it because who is directing and who is starring in some of these films. We've gotten Shang-Chi, our first Asian superhero. You've gotten another Black Panther movie. You've gotten The Eternals, which was very diverse. I don't know which one that is. And done. Uh, so I think there is a narrative surrounding this movie that has nothing to do with the movie.
Sure.
It's just people, it's just neckbeards complaining. So I'm hoping that the audience score and word of mouth pushes this to do very well.
I'm concerned. What's the movie coming out next week? The Hunger Games. I hope that this movie can hold off the Hunger Games.
Oh yeah, I got a feeling it will.
I don't know.
I got a feeling it will, only because I've seen some of the early um, critical reviews of it, and they're like, "Ooh, man,
Yeah, but I mean, there were early
this ain't."
critical reviews of the Marvels that said it sucked.
The difference is the people who are having to carry the movie,
Hmm.
as far as the good people, are no one you know, and the bad people are the leading actors and actresses. Viola Davis and I I want to call him Tyrion, and that is not his
Peter
name.
Dinklage.
Peter Dinklage. Yeah, I was like Tyrion. Um, and those two people will always represent. But the young man who's playing Snow,
Hmm.
he has got to bring it. And the people that I've talked to who talk about the book said this is the weakest book out of the series. And that is what concerns me.
Okay. We've been going for an hour,
So,
hour and some change. We can stop now at this point. We've said our piece. Go see the movie. Go support these ladies out here
yeah.
because they can't support them. Well, I guess they can finally get on the carpet and talk about the movie now, but the premiere's over, so whatever. Um, but the strike's over, so
And,
yeah.
and and see, and that's another thing that I think too, because the COVID strike, you didn't have them on late night TV shows, the interviews promoting the film. You could because you couldn't. So that build up that you would have gotten, and I say the same thing about this film that we said about Shang-Chi. If Shang-Chi hadn't have happened during the COVID time and the backlash that the Asian American community gotten, and the fact that you couldn't promote the film like you could a Black Panther, I think the narrative around that film and that phase would have been different. So let's see.
All right, folks. This is the We Tryin' channel, Nerdy by Nature Productions. We do all these things. You know where to find us here on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, Threads, all those places. Yeah, Nerdy by Nature. You know where to find us. All that stuff.
Mhm.
Like, comment,
Yep.
subscribe when we put up more videos. Until next time, we're out.